Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Nurturing Astrology podcast. I'm Dominique Jaramillo, your astrologer and host. I believe astrology can fast-track personal growth, improve relationships, and empower parents. On this show, I will bring you practical guidance and insight from my own work, studies, and life experiences, as well as interview experts to bring you stellar wisdom from other teachers and professionals to inspire you on your journey. I'm so glad you're here and thanks for tuning in. So sit back, enjoy the show, and be sure to follow, like, and subscribe to catch every new episode as soon as it drops. Your shares and reviews are also much appreciated to help more people benefit from nurturing astrology. Okay, let's dive into today's show. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Nurturing Astrology podcast. I'm Dominique Jaramillo, your astrologer and host. Today, I'm back again with Cornelia Hansen, my mentor and co-teacher of all my conscious parenting with astrology programs. And today we're here to talk to you about the moon in astrology and the moon for healthy attachment and developing emotional security. This is our latest program that we have put together for our parents, and we want to just do a little intro talk to give you an idea of this concept and what we'll be teaching in that program, but also to give you some great tips and strategies, regardless if you partake in the program, right? So it's really important. We all know that the moon is so important in astrology, and we want to dive into that with you today. So we'll start by just talking about the moon itself. We all know that we're born under a sun sign, but we're also born under a moon sign. And the moon in astrology represents many things. Of course, the most important things are the unconscious and the emotional life, the intuition and fight or flight instinct. And then it's also that feminine energy, that feminine expression and receptivity in our nature, creation. And then also represents our primal needs. And that's what we all focus on the most when it comes to the moon, is our needs, our primal needs to feel safe and secure, and we can trust our environment and have confidence that our needs are being met. So we know how imperative the moon is. We maybe aspire,
Yes.
We're born to our sun, we aspire to our sun, but we live in our moon every day, like the day-to-day.
That's a foundation. Yes.
Yeah. So talk about, the moon in terms of that first 2 years, that foundation, and how important it is for parents to understand what that time frame is, the importance of that first 2 years, and developing secure attachment and what that looks like.
Yes. So you're building like building a house here. You want a firm foundation.
Yeah.
And what does that consist of? Well, the first thing is the moon represents my feeling of security. Do I feel okay? And where does that come from? I mean, you think the first 2 years you don't remember because it's all in your unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're doing every single day with that baby is being stored up in the memory. I'm hungry. Is somebody here to feed me? You can imagine that you're first coming out into the world is kind of a shock, leaving that nice, warm, safe uterus, and then all of a sudden you're out there in this cold air, and everything is different, and now I can't survive alone. And that fear that's related to that, I can't, that's the first fear. Yeah. And so we have to be consistent in the way we attend to the baby's needs to make sure that the child always feels my need is being met. Oh, my diaper's wet and it's irritating, and I'll start crying because I want somebody to change it. And unfortunately, a lot of mothers' responses has to guess, is the baby hungry? Does the baby thirsty? Does the baby need to be changed? Is there something hurting? Right. And you have to kind of spend some time observing and make sure that you respond to whatever the particular need is. So we're building a feeling of security, that the world is a safe place to be, that my needs are always going to be met somehow, and I'll feel safe. That's the first thing, and it stays in the unconscious. But when we get involved in relationships as adults, that security need is still there. Has it been nourished and I feel okay that my needs will be met, or am I more afraid that they won't be met? And so I behave in a different kind of a way.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this is laying down, we want a positive beginning. Okay. Security needs is first.
Yeah.
And the first thing that happens is the baby attaches to the mother.
So there are attachment styles.
Yes.
You strive for a secure attachment, but that doesn't always happen necessarily. So there are different styles of attachment, and that attachment in that early time frame of our lives, like you said, registers unconsciously, and then we end up behaving or approaching relationships later in life in certain ways based on that unconscious, which is why we often have to go back and sort of reparent or figure out, why am I having unsuccessful relationships, or fearing or having anxiety in relationships and things like this. It can stem from that early childhood sort of sense of not feeling safe.
Yeah,
And
because we look for the things to fulfill the things that weren't fulfilled in our childhood.
Yeah,
You know, if I want security, I'm probably going to marry somebody who's older that I feel is more like a parent and who'll take care of me because that's what I need. I need to feel safe and I need to feel protected. So it's going to influence who you hook up with.
Yes, absolutely. What is a secure attachment?
A secure attachment is that if I'm an infant lying in my crib and I'm totally helpless, in order to survive, somebody is going to have to help me. And mother's going to teach us so much right at the very beginning, which will influence me for the rest of my life because it remains unconscious. So a secure attachment means that every time I have a need, it's fulfilled pretty quickly. You build that sense of security and safety if my needs are met. If I'm left to cry for a long time, my needs are not being met.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that, building resiliency in our children is really important, but not in those first 2 years is not the time. The crying out, or you're sending a message that they can't get their needs met, that they're not safe in their environment, that can have long-term repercussions. Right. So there is a time to build resiliency. Those first 2 years really aren't it. Right?
Yes.
Like that's really where we want to completely bond, be there for their needs, and show them that they can trust that their needs will be met. That even if you are trying to figure out what they need as a parent, that you're there trying, that you're present. They're seeing you there, physically there, even if you're fumbling and feel like you don't know what they need, but you're there, and that makes a difference. Someone's there to help me.
You think about the early peoples, there were tribes. There was always somebody there. And we had extended families. They used to all live in the same house.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was always somebody there to take care of you. If mother couldn't be there right away, maybe there was an older sibling who could fill in. And quite often now today we have new patterns where fathers are the mothers. The fathers are the stay-at-home dads and the moms are out working.
Yes, absolutely.
And so the attachment strongly goes to the father because he's there feeding the baby, changing the baby, and comforting the baby, and so on. So that bond becomes very strong.
Absolutely. It doesn't really even, it's not always the mother. In that first time period, it's whoever is present.
Right.
Person answering the needs and caring for her. My husband is very bonded to his grandmother because she was there. She did all of that. They bonded and attached. He attached to her because, his mom had him young and she wasn't there. She was at school, whatever. So the bond is very strong with grandma. So whether it's a nanny, a grandma, a dad, whoever really is there answering the needs, and that child is feeling can trust that their needs are being met and they feel safe and secure with, is who they will attach to. Right?
That's right. If you have an insecure attachment, then the rest of your life you're looking to fulfill those emotional needs from your unconscious.
Right. It's so
the moon is the one that perceives everything in your body. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it sends a message through Mercury to the sensory nerves and saying, oh, my tummy's empty, whatever it is, the message is, and
Yes.
they try to communicate with us.
Right. Yeah, so the moon gives us insight into what our needs are. And for parents, it's like that added insight into how I can best meet my child's needs.
Right.
Based on the moon sign, its aspects, things, it's like how we can really understand our children and their needs and meet them. So not every child is alike, and you can't parent them the same, and they don't require the same nurturing. I know certain children, it's harder to get on a schedule. Other children, it absolutely is a must and they need it. So
Yes.
you're nurturing them in those first 2 years, and then as they become independent, you're teaching them then how to nurture and take care of themselves.
Right.
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 So then when they
You
get into
remember,
relationship,
back in the 50s, I remember it was popular then to put the bottle in a bottle holder and have the baby sleeping in the crib. I mean, in the crib, sucking from the bottle, but there was no contact with the mother and the child. And that's when Peanuts came out, and you saw Linus going around with his blanket. He
yeah,
had these security needs because he
yes,
didn't have that touch. You had to have a soft blanket to feel like
yeah,
somebody was there.
yeah. That's when
So we learn as we go, unfortunately.
exactly, we do. Yeah, that was what I developed my moon sign baby line. It's called security blankets, because ultimately that's the
Yes,
blanket we're carrying around our whole lives, right? That's the energy. That's we're always trying to meet our moon's needs, and that's our
right.
little blanket. So the
Yeah.
cool thing about the moon, so we can explore our child's moon, which is really, really important. But to take a step back, what's even more important, I think, as parents, is to understand the nature of our own moon and our own nurturing. So we can look at our moon in our chart and reflect on our mothers, our experience of bonding or attachment with whoever was in our lives at that time. And if we felt our needs were met, if
Hmm.
we felt secure and loved and safe or not, and look to our moon sign to kind of understand that and reflect on that.
We have to look at that in terms of ourselves.
Yeah,
Did I feel safe and I got along with my mother fine? I'll probably be the same way with my child.
right.
But if there were conflicts of any sort with the mother, um, that's going to affect whether I go like my mother or say, well, I don't want to be like my mother's. I'm going to be this way.
Yeah,
And you go maybe too far the opposite way. So
right.
that's another part of reviewing your own moon is understanding. Yeah.
I think so. And it's about, if you didn't feel safe and secure and had that healthy, secure attachment, and you're reflecting on your own moon, it's how can you balance that? Like, not throw the baby out with the bathwater, but understanding, well, maybe as a Libra moon, maybe my mom was too accommodating and she didn't really give us any structure. But I want to be a balance of that. I want to be accommodating and there, but I also want to help um, encourage my child to be a little bit more open with their feelings and talking to me, and making sure that we have a good bond and understanding of each other and things like this. So I think, because conscious parenting starts with us, it really understanding our own moon and our reflection on our parents. It's like we always either want to emulate it if it was great, or do the opposite if it wasn't, right? So there
Right.
needs to be this integration of accepting that our mothers and parents and people who raised us were doing the best they could with who they were and how they were raised themselves, even, and that's the lineage. And that we can take this in as information to help support us understand ourselves and our approach to being a parent and nurturing for our children, right? Then
Right.
reflecting on our child's moon. And if you have more than one child with different moon signs and aspects and things like this, that they're all going to perceive you. Their moon can indicate how they perceive you as a parent and as a nurturer, regardless if you're parenting them all seemingly the same way. If you have the same house
There's
rules.
another point to be considered also,
Yeah,
because you might look at your kid's moon and say, "Oh, he looks at me as being repressive." Well, take into consideration his temperament. Now, if this is a fiery, active, wild child, and needs a lot of restraint, then he's going to perceive you as being restraining.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we don't have to take on the guilt,
Right. Oh, that's so important. Yes,
Yes.
exactly. And that's another thing, is not looking at, that as a negative. Oh my gosh, they see me this way. It's like, understand who your child is and why they might perceive you that way. It doesn't necessarily mean you're doing anything wrong, per se,
Right.
or you just need to adjust and realize, oh, they might see me as this, so maybe I can make some adjustments. And I was thinking about this, it comes with age and development as well. And with my son, who has a Pisces moon, we have this very close emotional bond, and he knows I'm always there for him. But the one thing we know as with Pisces is they need healthy emotional boundaries, right? So
Yes.
I need to recognize, as a mom, he might see me as not giving him enough space. I may be too involved in wanting to know how he feels and how he's doing and things like this. And I need to give him a little bit more space to process and help him develop his managing his own emotions and having healthy boundaries. He could even see me at times as emotionally overwhelmed because I might be overwhelmed with wanting to do too much for him. So it's just really having some grace and some compassion, but also being honest with ourselves in terms of how we're parenting, how our kids might be perceiving us, so that we can objectively look at what we're doing to support their emotional development. I need him to be able to handle and understand his own emotions and create healthy boundaries with other people. So it starts with me. I need to allow him to have that ability to make those boundaries even with me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I've
And
given him
so when you
tools.
look at your moon, where's your moon?
My moon is in Libra in the 4th.
Okay.
And it's conjunct Pluto, close to Pluto. So I definitely really want to be extra accommodating, and I want everything to be nice and harmonious for him so I can create the best, environment for him. But sometimes maybe that can be perceived as too much, or he really wants to make sure, I'm okay and that he's making good choices and making me feel good and stuff like this, and making the choices that make his parents feel good and proud of him and stuff. So it's really important that I empower him to make decisions that feel right and true and good for him. And that's where I can learn to create some balance and offer some space. And as he gets older, like early on, the bond is essential. And I was there providing a trusting environment for him and answering every need. And we were very, very close. And I'm realizing as you get older, I definitely, little by little, allowing him to have more freedom and space to create his own boundaries, and showing him how to do that with other people in his life, his friends and things like this. And so it's part of a process too. But those first 2 years are imperative in terms of just creating that trust.
You look at the stages of Erickson, he talks about the first stage as being the foundation. If you've mastered everything in the first 2 years, then you're ready for when the Mars returns and you move into autonomy. Then that becomes the issue. How much independence do I have? How much will mommy let go and let me try?
Right.
Like to feed myself, baby will reach for a spoon when they're ready, they want it. It's a sign to the mother, oh, he's ready to feed himself.
Right.
So it's going to be messy at first. We know that he's going to miss half the time, but sooner or later, he through practice, he'll learn to master that skill.
Yes.
But if we say, no, I don't want the mess, I'm going to feed you anyway. Then the child learns, well, I better not initiate anything because I have to wait for somebody else to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is so good. So I think that the moon is, especially with young children, but really at any stage you come in to understand astrology, you can learn about the moon and make adjustments as a parent. When you say, like, I know that someone's thinking, oh, my child is I'm way past the 2-year mark. Like I could reflect back now and still learn, and still make a difference and start meeting their needs now or adjusting now. Wouldn't you say?
Right. Well, look at, I have 4 children and they all had Two of them had Pisces moons. One of them had a Taurus moon, and one of them had a Virgo moon.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that each one of them perceived me in different ways. Like this one son, my older son, was an Aries, and he was more difficult for me to discipline than my daughter, who was a Capricorn Pisces. And so he perceived me as more critical, probably because the other kids have seen me as Pisces,
Yeah.
imaginative. I did do a lot of imagination with them, a lot of major toys and activities that would stimulate imagination. And music was
Mhm.
important to me, so I played a lot of music. So they saw me that way.
I think that bears repeating to clarify, Cornelia, because that's a really good point, is that your Aries moon son perceived you, or no, he had a Virgo moon, right? He
Right.
perceived
He had
you
a
as
Virgo moon,
critical
right.
because his temperament was wanting a lot of freedom and independence. And so his Virgo moon was like, oh, my mom's limiting that. Right. So
Yes.
because he has this temperament, it's perceived that way. So it's another, I think, important thing to note that our child's temperament, the way they're built, has a lot to do with
Right.
the way they perceive us. It's not that anything that we're actually doing. So that's why it's understanding their temperament, not just their moon, that helps us make those adjustments and recognize I
Yes.
see that he's seeing me this way, but it's because he needs XYZ. He's built this way. And so
Right.
I can then work on
Exactly.
going, look, I'm not trying to limit your freedom. I'm not trying to, shut you down or, put you on a schedule you don't want to be on, but here's why we just need to do this. And then you're free to do that. That kind of information is power in terms of adjusting
Mm-hmm.
ourselves or communicating when appropriate and you're able to why you're doing the things you're doing so that the child
Yes,
doesn't
because
necessarily perceive you that way.
that personality of that child is going to develop out of the interaction between his temperament or her temperament and the environment,
Mm-hmm.
physical environment and the social environment. That's why we look so hard at temperament
Yes.
first, because we understand better now our child's needs
Mm-hmm.
that we can help fulfill, make them feel safe.
Yeah.
That's the benefit of having astrology as a tool.
Absolutely. I mean, there's just parents are always wanting, the main question they always ask is, how can I meet my child's needs? How can I be the best mother for them so that they can grow up and feel confident and be successful and like all of these things? And I tell parents all the time, go right to the moon first. No matter their age, what is that perception of safety, security, bonding, and what can you understand about their temperament and their nature that you can then reflect on yourself and make adjustments to improve that, or to recognize and see deeper what you're doing to support that, or maybe where you feel challenged and where you maybe need a little help. Maybe your partner is better at something in some area than you are, and you can kind of go, hey man, there's always two people or a family, like you say, like you're living with grandma and grandpa, and there's all these other roles and people in the house that have the ability to provide these things, even if it's something you struggle with. For parents and who work and are out of the house, and recognizing they
Right.
need that, and
Yes.
they're better for their families if they're also meeting their own needs. And I think that's the other thing about understanding our own moons is we have to feel safe and secure in our own moons, and that we're getting our own needs met in order to be the best parents we can be. If we're sacrificing our own
Right.
needs all the time, we're not able to even be the best we can be for our kids and then help them be the best they can be. So it is this,
Yeah.
trickle down thing that starts with us. So it's important to recognize and understand your own moon and what you need, especially under stress, right? To feel safe and secure. That's why moms need their timeouts too. If you're an Aries moon, you need to get out and go to the gym, or you need to go for a walk. If you need a Cancer moon or a water moon, you need to, settle and have some alone time, take a bath, whatever that is, some social time, get out with your friends, find some balance so that you feel your best, because then you're going to
Yes.
naturally be able to better meet your child's needs,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we're doing in our moon program is we are breaking down the moon in terms of understanding our own and our child so we can really create this wonderful secure attachment and bond, but also to understand regardless of where we're at, how old your kids are, we can still make those adjustments. I tell all my parents, start with the moon.
That's the other thing that's comforting, I think, is to understand that the brain is developing too.
Mm-hmm.
Information is being stored. My experience is being explored. My emotions are being stored, of how I feel about different kinds of things, which is going to affect me as an adult and how I express my needs. You know, if I didn't get a lot of touching, for instance, then I'm going to look for somebody who's either wants provides that to me, or else I'm going to stay away from that kind of
Right.
thing.
Right.
So it's that's what we look for in our needs. If I can't, because I'm always looking for it in somebody else because I didn't get it when I was a child.
Right. That's where I think the balance has to come in too, is like we are always seeking outside ourselves to have our needs met. And then there's some element of we have to understand and learn how to meet our own needs, what we actually need to do for ourselves.
Right.
There's self-care
And
and
we
then
have to realize that the brain changes too. Nothing is forever. That doesn't
right.
mean that if you had a difficult childhood, that can't be corrected with therapy or
Yes.
insight. If you're into looking at reflecting on your behavior, like why did I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Was that good or bad? If you start doing that, that's called self-reflection. Then you can say, I can change that. I have the power of the will to change that.
Yeah.
We can get rid of bad habits,
Yeah.
incorporate new ones,
Yeah.
and the brain will stick them right in there,
Yep.
and then they continue to work for us.
Yep. And I think most of the conscious parents, in our group, like they really get that. And that's part of the reason why they're there. Like they really understand, like, knowing themselves can make all the difference, and reflecting on their own upbringing and their own parents can help them be better parents, which
Right.
is so empowering and beautiful to see more and more moms coming into the group, and more moms and parents looking to astrology for this kind of support. I was watching the news last night, and they're having this mental health crisis, and hearing student superintendent, I think he was in the Midwest there, or Colorado, where he was like so emotional, like he's creating this whole school and resource to help kids that are having mental struggles. And he was like, they just need to feel like that they can trust their environment, that they're loved, that they belong, that they're valued. And so he was like, if every child could just feel loved and valued, and that they belong. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's the moon. Like that's what every mother wants their child to feel. And that by
Right.
laying that foundation can make all the difference in how they can manage the things in the world that they experience.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of made me feel even more excited and passionate about the work we're doing, and passionate about the sort of, not shortcut, but the immense ability to support that astrology can do.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about that. Marianne Williamson had a great quote. There's no single effort more radical in its potential for saving the world than a transformation of the way we raise children. And
That's
that's
right.
that's what we're involved in.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think you have that in the
exactly.
beginning of your book. I think you
Yeah,
quoted that at the beginning of your book, because I
yeah,
remember,
exactly.
and
Yes.
I love it. I've shared it in the group before, and it's so true. And it's what inspired me to want to do this work. And, having a child and immediately realizing, oh my gosh, what a resource astrology can be. And he's so young. So really focusing in on that moon was the first thing I did. And then
Yeah.
also really reflecting on myself, and every time
Yes.
I hit a wall as a parent, I told a client this the other day, every time I hit a wall as a parent, or I was having emotional overwhelm, or freaking out about something, or worried about something, I would go to the astrology, but I would look at my chart. I would look at my chart, and I would look at the transits or something that was happening. And I was like, okay. Like we look at that halt thing in early child development, it's like, are they hungry? Are they angry? Are they lonely? Are they tired? Right. So you were like, look to see it. What are they? And basically, like, it was like the amount of stress, and if, are you hungry? Are you angry? Are you lonely? Are you tired? Basically, that's going to determine the amount of stress between you and I would realize, oh, I'm just frustrated because I really need to be doing this and I don't have time because I have to tend to my child. And that's frustrating for me. I need to check myself because I'm a parent first and this can wait. And like I would have those conversations with myself so that I wasn't taking that out on my child, and I could really adjust and be present. I remember sitting at this desk and he would come running in to me right here while I'm working and want me to come and play or to be with him. And I would feel guilty and I would be like, but then I was like, oh, this can wait because I'm doing this because I want to do this right.
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 Exactly.
So I'm going to go be with my child and this can wait. And the divine timing will happen, and now that he's 12, I really can put more of what I've experienced and learned as being a parent and raising him with astrology into the development of these programs and sharing information that I've learned from my experiences and being mentored by you and the programs we're teaching to help more parents with this tool, So I'm going off on a tangent because I'm so passionate.
I always tell parents, remember you're the model.
Yeah.
You're modeling to your child. For instance, again in the 2-year-old period, how do they handle anger? Well, they watch how you what you do when you're angry. Do you pound the table? Well, you'll find your baby pretty soon pounding the table.
Yeah.
How do you handle your anger?
Yeah.
It's going to be a model for the child.
Yeah, that's a great
and
one.
Remember that we're the adults. We know, and the baby's just learning. So everything is teaching him. No matter what we say or do, it's teaching the baby something.
Yeah. Yep. And we have to be aware of that. We can always look at our children and be like, okay, you watch their behavior and you're like, oh, that's me. That's me.
Oh, we could see that in the preschool when you watch the kids in the housekeeping corner and they're playing mommy and daddy. And you can learn all about mommy and daddy, how the kids behave in the housekeeping corner.
Oh, I bet. That's funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, Cornelia. Well, I'm so excited about this next program. So thank you for giving us this quick overview about the moon and attachment. I know that this is a really rich area that we could probably talk for hours on. So, and we'll come back, we'll do other things, I'm sure, but we're putting together this moon program that the link will be in the show notes. And definitely come join the Conscious Parenting with Astrology Facebook group, ask questions, become a part of the community so that we can help you with Conscious Parenting with Astrology if you're interested. Thanks for this chat, Cornelia, and
thank you.
We'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you gained some great astrology insight and inspiration from today's show. I'd love to hear, so drop me a comment or share in a review. Check out the show notes for all the details and links about today's episode, how you can connect with me on social or work with me directly. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Oh, and for my moms out there, be sure to join my private Conscious Parenting with Astrology Moms group on Facebook. Come join a growing community of like-minded mamas supporting each other in the hardest job in the world with the help of astrology. Hope to see you over there. Take care and keep nurturing the nature, friends. I'll see you on the next episode.